Hello everyone and welcome back to the Tales of Lost. This time, while I'm doing some environment sketches, I'm going to tell you some insights about the process and some details about the world. Not every sketch is directly related with the world, except some of them. At the last part of the video, there's a small story which is related to a race I created recently. So if you wonder how it turned out, keep watching. Since I got used to drawing characters and other stuff, it made me realize that I skipped a part of how this world actually looks like. Environmental art is not something I did a lot, and I think it's a good time to dive in for the sake of this world building project. I experiment on each sketch to what it suits better with my art style. So you can also find cards on the right top corner of relevant videos with the sketches from time to time. I'm going to add in the description if you are interested. Without further ado, let's dive in. Another reason to do some environmental sketches was to visualize the swamp for one of the races I created, which is mud people. That's why I started with this sketch of a swamp. While I did the sketch, I was constantly thinking of how it's possible to make the representation accurately. Until the end of the video, I overlooked one of those fundamental steps of the environment design, which is thumbnail sketches. For deciding values and creating an accurate feeling of depth of field, it's a very important step. On the last one, I think I partly nailed it, but on this first one, I missed it. The second sketch is partly irrelevant to this project and partly not. It's because I'm thinking gloomy weather is a staple in most places in this world. First of all, I love gloomy weather. For most people it's depressing, but for me, personally, it's a perfect weather. Summer, sun and hot weather is not my cup of tea. Since I was born in winter, maybe it's relevant, but I don't know. On the third one, trying to imagine how Hanye city would look like from outside. If you are wondering who Hanye is, you can find the link of the video in the description. I imagine it with high walls and sitting over a rocky hill, surrounded by a curvy road to climb, but not with a long spiral. People go there for trades or looking for a good city to live in. I tried to show small representation of people how they dress, but as a sketch, nothing in details. On this one, I was thinking how one sacred or ritualistic place would look like. Tried to use the cult symbols there, but after I finished it seemed too primitive for the cult's taste that I imagined. Or it could be built in when they first established the cult. Symbols are also not final design, and I'm still working on it. This cave is totally irrelevant. On this one, I tried to use vibrant colors and how the sunlight acts in such a place. Then I added some explorers in the end, changed the shape completely because it seems like it's quite symmetrical and unnatural. This church-like building is totally irrelevant. The weather and the mood suits here, but the architecture is not how I imagine in general. This one can be considered as another mood representative. And here we are, Swamp of the Mud People. Depth of field worked better on this one because at the beginning I zoomed out as much as possible and only used the big brush. It makes it easier to work on it as a thumbnail sketch, and step by step when it got gathered together I zoomed in a bit. I tried to set the atmosphere and silhouettes to make everything readable as much as possible. One of my struggling points is, whenever I make art, at some point, unconsciously find myself working on a tiny detail. I made the same thing with the huts. There's nothing wrong with working on details, but when you make a big and bold strokes and suddenly a tiny detail somewhere, that part looks like a sticker. I think there's an imaginary rubber band on my wrist whenever I find myself working on details, zoomed out and working with bigger brush. In the end, it worked out great. That's how I imagined the swamp of the mud people, and now you also know how their homes look like. While you watch the rest of the speed painting, let me tell you a small story. Under the high trees hugging the swamp by protecting from any sunlight, this place gives constant goosebumps. But also there is a feeling, like the unexplainable desire to jump when you are on the edge of a cliff. This attempt ends horribly, but curiosity pulls you in. At the beginning, it all started with an exploring purpose, but in the end, my group and I found ourselves in the middle of peaceful silence that was almost deafening. We don't know what exactly happened, but the idea of leaving this place somehow pulled out from our minds. This untouched part of the swamp has purest clay I ever seen. I'm not sure you know this, but as a potter, sticking your hand in a good clay has a feeling that can't be described by words. At least I'm not good at it. We spent hours there until one of us snapped out of us to leave and go back to our temporary settlement we had next to the swamp. Days follow weeks and months, and all of us find ourselves in the middle of the swamp, chained by the magnificence of the clay here. So we abandoned the settlement and started to build huts here. To keep the equipment and kilns away from the water, we built platform on the roots of the trees, and that's how our story started. And that's it. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it, and if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe not to miss out the stories what Tales of Lost holds. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can leave a comment below, or you can join our small Discord community. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one.